Hey, and welcome back, everybody. Glad that you are here. I just read Robin Bernardi's comment to me. I've been catching myself up on the case that we're going to talk about tonight, the case of the murder of Mindi um, Kassotis, and I'm just tired. I'm tired talking or just going through this guy's story. I'm just tired. And Robin tells me I need a snack. I need a nap and a snack. A nap and a snack sounds good. Okay, guys. What do I normally say? This is my channel. We like to cut through the nitty gritty, blah, 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 blah. Thank you for being here. This is my first video on this case. And I gotta throw out there, Autumn's been begging me to do this case for quite a while now. Autumn's been wanting me to do this case, but I've been so far behind and I haven't been able to catch up on what the case is about. But I thought that today was a good opportunity to kind of dip our toe in the pond of the murder of Mindi Kassotis, because today, day 7 of the trial of her husband, he testified. In fact, he was the defense's only witness, the only witness from the defense. So, real quick, just to kind of dip our toe into this, remind us what this is about. This here is Mindi Kassotis. She's 40 years old. She was the second wife of Nicholas Kassotis. Her dismembered remains were found scattered in Riceboro, Georgia, within about a 3-mile radius of each other. And they were found on December 2nd, 2022. The defendant, her husband, Nicholas Kassotis, 43-year-old, former Navy JAG officer, Judge Advocate General. He has 2 law degrees, according to my research. Maybe he just has the one JD and he was going after a second. Anyway, educated lawyer, worked for the Judge Advocate General. He was arrested in Lancaster, Pennsylvania on May 12th, 2023, shortly after DNA from Mindy's remains positively identified her. So Kassotis is facing 12 charges, but basically it's malice murder, felony murder, aggravated assault, and all the stuff related to the dismemberment of his wife, also tampering with evidence. And prosecutors have been arguing that it's exactly his background as a lawyer. Apparently, he worked both as a defense attorney and a prosecutor that helped him to, I guess, clean up and to try to hide this murder. Now, I gotta say, if that is the case, then he did a really bad job of it. He did a really bad job of it, which proves that it's actually, I mean, gotta be smart. Gotta be smart to get away with this stuff. So a couple of the pieces of evidence that they show is that he bought a Milwaukee knife at Home Depot the day of the dumping. He used plastic totes to transport Mindy's body parts. Cell phone data places him near the crime locations, stuff like that. Now, the defense, the defense hinges on, I mean, it's a valid defense, but it basically, what they're saying is, I didn't do it, or his lawyers are saying, my client didn't do it. That's my best Georgian. I'm really bad at it. Rather, there was this other guy named Jim McIntyre. And this mysterious guy who they believed was an FBI agent was, I guess, controlling their lives, making them relocate frequently, stuff like that. And so they are wrapping the case, or attempting to wrap the case in uncertainty about this Jim McIntyre fellow. Nicholas is saying, I don't know what happened to her, but that Jim McIntyre, you should be looking at him. So yeah, there's the case. The case is broadly circumstantial, I would say, which I think we should probably talk a little bit about circumstantial versus direct evidence. Of course, direct evidence is evidence that directly ties, it's direct proof of a crime. So, for example, if you've got a witness that is saying, I saw the defendant murder the victim, then that is direct evidence. They are testifying to something that they know, something that they saw. A video of that evidence of him murdering her would be direct evidence. Circumstantial evidence basically means that you need to be able to infer something from the evidence. So, for example, if somebody is seen running through the woods, let's say Nicholas is seen running through the woods with his deer butchering knife or his Milwaukee knife, he's covered in blood. That's not direct evidence of a murder. It is circumstantial evidence of a murder, but one might infer that given the totality of everything, they found the body, there were totes, all the stuff, one might reasonably infer that he is the murderer. That's direct versus circumstantial. I'm preaching to the choir here. So what I've done here is I have prepared a couple clips because today was his testimony, and he kind of reminded me. Now I'm blanking. What is her name? Oh, dang it! Hold on. Amber Heard. His testimony reminds me a little bit of the testimony of Amber Heard in its delivery pattern. He is polished. He is a lawyer. When he is testifying, he testifies directly to the jury. It's very, he's obviously very prepared. I feel like they've gone through the questions multiple times. I think that he's gone through his evidence, his case so well that he's a pretty polished witness. However, he is trying to spin a pretty ridiculous story, right? It's a stupid story. So I'm hoping that you guys are going to be commenting a lot tonight. We've only got 100 of us here, but hopefully we will have plenty to talk about. Real quick. For example, if you put GF in your comment, that will help me see it. Sunny Days 55. Have you ever heard of a defendant testifying with such conviction? I always think it's a bad idea for a defendant to testify. I really do. I think it's a bad idea. But yeah, I mean, like I said, he's polished. He definitely is. It's interesting. Okay, so let's go. Sunny Day says, today wore me out. So many lies, from Susan Lewis. So yeah, we've got a lot of comments already. He has the JD. He was going for the LLM, so the Masters of Law, right? He already had the doctorate. Okay, so that's what we want you to do. I want your comments. Put GF in the comments for me to be able to see them. And with that, let's go ahead and begin our testimony here. I need to figure out which one it is.
What happened next with respect to Jim McIntyre?
He came back a couple days later.
Did you meet with him?
This is like an hour into testimony. Okay, so I've provided a background here as best I can. I am going to interrupt along the way. I'm sorry. But this just, I don't know. I found this part of it interesting. It's about an 8-ish minute clip. What is it? Yeah, 8 minutes. Here we go.
That time?
I did.
Tell us about that.
He came to the house. I believe he had called to schedule it to make sure that I was going to be home at the time. He seemed very thorough, very professional. He wanted to know everything that had happened. He wanted copies of the emails that we had received. He wanted specific issues with the banks. I believe we printed out screenshots of the charges that showed what had been going on, and we provided all that to him, and he said that it was something he took seriously and that he would be investigating it.
So some random individual shows up at your house, says he's with the FBI, and claims to be a man named Jim McIntyre. What did you do to verify that information?
I didn't verify it. Mindy believed that she had seen a badge, or she told me at the time that she'd seen a badge. I had no reason to doubt that he was who he said he was. It didn't cross my mind that somebody else could have shown up at my house at that time.
No, he didn't. He's a lawyer, for crying out loud. When law enforcement is talking to you, you make sure that they are law enforcement. Come on.
And what was your education again at this point in time?
At this point, I had my LLM. I had 2 law degrees and my bachelor's. I'd also worked with FBI agents in a number of different fields. I did not see anything that caused me to question that he was who he said he was. In fact, I thought that we were lucky. As this was going on, I read multiple news reports of people who had undergone cyber stalking and cyber crimes, and often it seemed like their big battle was getting somebody to believe what was going on, getting law enforcement to take it seriously, getting law enforcement who had jurisdiction.
Guys, real quick. Sorry. Why am I no longer using Baby Gavin? You miss Baby Gavin? It is because Baby Gavin is missing. Baby Gavin is missing. Go to gavinfish.com, click on the treasure hunt, and play the game. See if you can find Baby Gavin. Looks like we have 20 people who have finished. Hungry Hackers getting close. Hungry Hackers getting close to the 21st. That is why Baby Gavin is missing. Can't have Baby Gavin on if he's missing.
Over the crimes to take it seriously, and I thought we were lucky. I said many times how lucky we were.
What did Jim McIntyre advise you?
Over the coming weeks or months, he advised us that he believed that this Washington Post article had gotten me some attention that I was from a overseas hacking group of some sort that was targeting members of the military. He said that we should relax somewhat because he believed that the local vandalism and things of that nature were likely something they were paying kids to do or something of that nature. We were not in real danger. It was meant to be harassing us, and that he was continuing to investigate it.
Do you recall the approximate time or date that Jim McIntyre initially showed up and you had this conversation?
This was sometime in late 2017.
Did you eventually leave your civilian job with the Navy?
Yes, I left my civilian job in February of 2018.
What did you do at that point in time for work?
At that point, I believed I was being employed by a software company that he had connected me to, that Jim McIntyre had connected me to.
What software company did you believe?
How do you believe that you are employed? You are employed or you're not. You will get a paycheck. You will talk to people. Believe that you are employed.
Employed by?
The name changed multiple times over the years that I believe I worked there. The ending name was Apis Limited, which I believe is the Latin word for bee or something like that.
What?
Like a bumblebee or a honeybee.
Do you know why Jim McIntyre would help you find a job?
Yeah, I believed that he was helping me because of our situation, that he knew people, which is not uncommon. Private sector and the government on criminal, especially cyber investigations, often have to work very hand in hand. And as I had talked to him, and I was hoping to find something that would allow me to work from home, because despite his reassurances that he did not think at that time we were in real danger, I was very uncomfortable leaving Mindy home alone. We had suffered a very serious car accident. She had a lot of health issues following that, and leaving my frail wife at home by herself when we're undergoing this was something that really bothered me.
When you were working for this company that eventually becomes Apis Limited, where were you working from?
I was working from home.
So this was remote work?
This was remote work.
Where were they headquartered?
I believe they were headquartered in Colorado at the time. though I believe they were incorporated in Wyoming. I saw some incorporation documents, and that's not uncommon. Wyoming does not have a corporate income tax, the same way that most large corporations are headquartered in Delaware because of the laws.
What was your role within APIS Limited?
I was an attorney, kind of a general counsel role, though it carried with it a lot of kind of other stuff. Sometimes I would be called on to help look through data, records that were being generated by the software.
What was the nature of their business?
The nature of their business was AI software development, basically using artificial intelligence software to analyze data and find connections between it.
He believed he was
Were you
doing
doing any coding for them at this time?
Very little. Sometimes I would be asked to look at something. I do have somewhat of a coding background, but it was not something that I was called on regularly to do because, frankly, there were other people who were much better at it than me. I think, sometimes there are situations where everybody else knows too much about a problem, and somebody who's looking at it with fresh eyes can help. But very rarely was I asked to look at any coding.
Were you still with this company in 2019?
Yes, I was. Sorry.
And that's about the same time that Heather is coming, finally bringing it to a head to collect this divorce obligation.
Heather is his first wife.
Perform.
Yes.
So when you agreed to pay her $1.5 million, what made you think that you had $1.5 million?
Mr. Jim McIntyre told me I did. If I could back up just a little,
Please.
Because that year, the year 2018 into early 2019, a lot had happened. In May, we were told to leave our house. He said that there were arrests being made and that there was nobody.
He believed because Mr. McIntyre, Jim McIntyre, told him he had $1.5 million. I just don't know that anybody is going to believe that a highly educated lawyer with multiple law degrees would not know what's in his bank account. Come on.
It was a holiday weekend, I believe it was Memorial Day weekend, and that he was worried we would not be safe if we stayed there, that somebody might do something rash, and we were terrified. We kind of grabbed our dog and we went down to Williamsburg, Virginia. There's a naval base right outside Williamsburg, Naval Weapons Station Yorktown, that has little vacation cabins on, and we kind of huddled down there for the weekend and came back thinking that everything was over. It was not over, obviously. Things continued. If anything, it picked up pace. The money disappearing, the issues with our bank accounts, the issues with emails, mail, vandalism of our house. So we were in contact with Mr. McIntyre, or we knew it was Mr. McIntyre again, and he started looking for other suspects. He said at that time it was clear that somebody else was doing this, and he was casting a wider net.
Why would Jim McIntyre know how much money you had?
Because there was a large sale or licensing agreement that was completed at some point. I wasn't getting paid by this company. I was paid only in stock options, and I was told that this large sum of money was being given to me. I believe this was late 2018. Honestly, it felt kind of like a lottery ticket. It was something that I had never expected, and. But we had real issues with getting a large chunk of money because we couldn't put a couple $100s into our account without it going missing within a matter of minutes, if not hours.
Okay, so that is the story of Jim McIntyre and the money to pay to his ex-wife, Heather. The funny thing about it is, like, he is straight-faced. He is speaking as if it actually happened. What I'm worried about is that there might be a juror, like one juror, who goes, well, that's possible. Therefore, there's reasonable doubt. Yeah, it's possible. I mean, people get taken advantage of all the time, and not taking into consideration the probabilities versus the possibilities, right? That is what I am concerned about. Let's see. Let me go to the right clip here. I think this is the one. Let's go to the next clip. Here we go.
So we had almost no social media access for a period of months. He said that we had both in the past said things to people on social media that we didn't know well, that we shouldn't have. And then following that, he said he had some new rules for us that we, he said that since I had told so many people that I was married, that I had to start saying that Mindi had passed away, that she had died of COVID. I told, that was what I told all of my kind of online writing friends in the writing community. And he said that was to keep her safe. I don't recall what exactly she was supposed to say, if she was just supposed to say that she was unmarried or divorced, or if something had happened to me. We didn't talk a lot about our kind of individual chats with other people.
Of course you didn't.
Mindi and I did not talk about that with ourselves. So that became a running thing that I was supposed to tell anyone that I befriended, that I talked to more than a handful of times, was that I was widowed, that my wife had passed away. And it started by saying she died of COVID, and then as she would get medical attention for various things, he would change that, because he said if medical records of where she had been ever leaked, it would look consistent.
So you went to Pennsylvania to see Samantha.
Yes, I did.
When did you get to Pennsylvania? Do you recall?
Mid-December, maybe the 16th.
What did you do when you got to Pennsylvania?
I had rented a place in a little town called Ephrata, kind of Lancaster. I think it's Lancaster County, and unpacked the things that I still had with me and got Rusty situated, and then Samantha and I went out for dinner.
We saw a driver's license you procured in Delaware.
Yes.
Why did you procure a Delaware driver's license?
After the name change was finalized, which was January 4th, I had filed it in late December, and then on January 4th, I went back to court. I had a hearing before the judge. I explained my situation, and she granted the name change. I had started the process of changing other things. I went to the Social Security office when I was told to in Delaware, and I changed my Social Security number to reflect my new name. I changed my name to reflect my... No, I think I said it right the first time. I'm sorry. So I had to update it, just like women have to if they change their name after marriage or something like that. You go to Social Security. That's your first stop, and you say, "This is why my name changed," either the marriage certificate or the name change order, and. So what was once Nicholas James Kassotis on the Social Security number is now Nicholas Killian James Stark.
And how long did it take Social Security to update that information?
It takes them apparently about 24 hours. So I didn't realize this at the time. I left the Social Security office and went to the DMV in Delaware. And when I got there that morning, I was told, no, this will take, it might be done today, but more likely it will be sometime. And this was on a Friday, I believe, so it'll be sometime after the weekend.
What name is on your Delaware driver's license?
Nicholas James Kassotis. I went back that afternoon to a different DMV and filled out. I had my name change order. I had a printout from Social Security. I had some documents that Mr. McIntyre had provided, and then I explained the situation, and the woman said, "Oh yeah, I think this will be fine." At this point, we went through the entire process. She had me pay. She gave me the card. So it came off the printer, and I said, "This is the wrong name." And she said, "Oh yeah, this is, it hasn't updated in the system yet, so I can't issue you one under your new name. You're gonna have to come back next week. But here's your Delaware driver's license." And I was a little unhappy I had paid for it, frankly.
Tell us about your time in Lancaster County.
I started going to Lancaster
So
County.
that part of it. Okay, so that's Delaware. But here in Pennsylvania, that process is all done at the exact same time. The system hasn't updated yet. Bull crap. And that is one of those things that, can be directly refuted. Why would you lie about something like that when it can be refuted by a DMV worker? Crying out loud. Come on. That's just dumb. Unless he's just trying to create that one sliver of doubt that a juror might find reasonable.
fairly regularly on weekends to see Samantha.
And did that relationship continue to grow?
It did, yes. It was romantic. It very quickly grew serious. Probably unhealthily fast. In both our situations, but yes.
And you eventually got married, correct?
Yes, we did.
When did you get married to Samantha?
April 21st of 2023.
We've seen pictures of your burned up Ford Explorer. What happened?
Sir. On March, believe it was March 20th of 2023, I was driving the Ford Explorer. I had left the rental we were staying at, driven north to run some errands, and also to, I believe, picked up a cashier's check for the purchase of a home. And shortly thereafter, I was making a turn onto another road, and the car was kind of fighting me a little. Like it was taking more force to turn than I thought it would. I continued down the road and was smelling something odd, which in Lancaster County is not necessarily indicative of anything but that you're driving by a farm. And I stopped. At that point, I realized that there was smoke in the interior of the car. I got out, and crossed around to the passenger side to get my phone out, but opened the door, and the fire kind of just came right up at me. It was the car went up extremely fast.
This was a
What
new
injuries,
car.
if any, did you suffer?
I suffered some burns to my face. I lost a lot of hair, like an eyebrow, and a lot of hair off the side of my head. I also had a burn to my right eye. It didn't occur to me before this that your eyes could actually get burned, but they can.
What happened to the goods that were in your vehicle?
Everything was destroyed.
Oh, come on.
You mentioned picking up a cashier's check to purchase a home.
Yes.
Tell me about your home.
What's his name? Chris Stearns, the father of Stephen Stearns, where he's talking about, Madeline went missing, and then I got a flat tire, and then this, and then that, and so on and so forth. Like, too much is happening here. Way too much is happening here. And this is a new car. It was new. So yeah, no.
Purchase.
Sam and I had been looking for places to live, and we had settled on a house in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
When was the closing date?
Closing date was March 20th.
Did you put any deposit on the house?
I put a $50,000 EMD on the house.
Did you ever, where was the cashier's check from?
I believe it was from Citizens Bank, but I did not physically draw the cashier's check. I looked at it to verify that the name of the closing company was right, that the amount was right, and I believe it was a Citizens Bank cashier's check. Actually, I know it was a Citizens Bank because I called Citizens Bank thereafter to discuss with them.
You say you didn't draw the cashier's check. Who
Yes.
drew the cashier's check?
Somebody that Jim McIntyre worked with, who he had me meet and pick up that morning.
And what happened to the check?
The check burned along with my car, bits of me, and everything I had in the car at the time.
What did you do about the destroyed check?
I talked to Mr. McIntyre. Within, I don't know the exact time. It was pretty shocking. But I was driven back to the rental by a police officer, and I called him while I was still in the police officer's car to say I need a new cashier's check, and he said, I think that might take a while. I think that's a problem. So while he was calling about the actual account, I was calling the general Citizens Bank customer service, and they confirmed to me that it was a long process to get a cashier's check reissued, because their concern is they have to honor a cashier's check, so they have to wait a certain amount of time after they have issued the kind of stop payment on it to make sure it has not been presented at some other bank.
There's just too much going on here. I really hope that there are no jurors that are going to fall for this. Just wow. By the way, he's the only witness for the defense. The only witness for the defense. Let's see what you guys are saying over here. Yeah, what a twit. Hashtag I want a gym too. I want a gym. Provides security for me, gets me good work, keeps me safe. Everybody needs a gym. That's hilarious. Autumn says this guy makes me mad. He went around the car to get his phone. Yeah. Okay, so where are the scars on your face, my man? My dude, says I don't see any scars. Don't see any scars. Let's see. Yeah, Susan's saying he's the unluckiest guy on earth. You're right. I should have known that. I should have known that, Susan. Robin, he smelled something funny because he just stepped in a fresh pile of his own BS. Yes, 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 yes. His new car. You see, what happened, Meredith, is there was nothing left but a little green globule. You know, I had a car that started burning while I was in it. Okay? Had a car that started burning while I was in it. It was a 1980 Jeep Wagoneer. And I think it only had 5 digits on its odometer, but it had to have hundreds of thousands of miles on it, right? I don't know. I don't know what it was. I can't remember. But it was a faulty wiring thing. But that is a 1980 Jeep Wagoneer, a brand new Ford Explorer. What are the odds that something just spontaneously burns and leaves a little green globule? Come on. Patty Olson, he had to add that Delaware doesn't have state income tax. Yeah, I bet. Sunny days. I bet the judge is working so hard to not just go, come on. They've got to keep their poker faces on. That's hilarious. Starfish and coffee, all the extra he keeps adding on is too much. And Mooney's saying this is only, yeah, today it was almost 8 hours of testimony. Almost. So, and we're going to be talking about like 35, 40 minutes of it. Pretty funny. Okay. Let's. Yeah, what a twit. Yeah, that wasn't me. That wasn't me. I like the word twit. It reminds me of Don Knotts and Tim Conway for some reason. But yeah, that's our guy. All right, let's go over to this one. Let's see what comes next. This was after lunch break.
At the time, we were planning on moving to Missouri.
What did you plan on doing once you got to Missouri?
Have the baby and, settle there and, try to, put our lives back together to an extent. We'd get to see family and friends, that we hadn't seen, or we had very, we hadn't seen some of our friends in years.
Well, you already said that. When did you next see Mindi?
I never saw Mindi again.
Why not?
I got messages Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday that I thought were from her. Everything seemed positive. And Thursday said I received a phone call and was told she'll be ready to pick up this afternoon. I'd sent her a few messages that hadn't heard back. I assumed she was either napping or undergoing some sort of test that she didn't have her phone with her. But that evening, Thursday, December 1st, I was told that she had died.
Who told you that she had died?
A man at a medical clinic of some sort that I went to.
Where was the medical clinic you went to?
I believe somewhere in Savannah or the greater Savannah area. I don't know Savannah very well, so.
What was the name of the man that told you that?
I do not recall.
Tell me about what happened when you got to the birthing center and spoke to this man.
I was brought back. He was kind of waiting for me. I was brought to an office, and I assumed I was getting, like I'd gotten before, with various medications or various tools of like the blood pressure cuff that I tested her with, that I was going to get some sort of instruction on aftercare. And he sat me down and said, I'm very sorry to tell you that Mindi passed away very suddenly today.
Did you ask to see her?
I did.
What was the result of that?
He said I could not at that time. My understanding leaving, I don't recall his exact words. I was an absolute wreck. But my understanding was that there was going to be an autopsy, so I assumed that she was being prepped for that, or she had already been transported somewhere for that.
How did you feel when you were told you couldn't see your wife?
I was distraught, but I believed that I was going to see her I believed that I would get a chance to see her.
What did you do next?
He had me sign some forms that I believed were for the autopsy, some sort of a release, and then I drove home.
How were you told she died?
At that time, I was not. He said that she had died very suddenly, that she had been brought back from some testing and had gone to the bathroom, and that the nurse was called away before she was done in the bathroom, and that by the time they came back to rehook her up to her machines, she had passed away, and that was why no alarms had been raised at the time, I guess.
Okay, so you said you drove home from there.
Yes.
What happened when you got home?
I spoke to Frank and Betsy immediately. I mean, Betsy, I walked in and Betsy said, "Oh my God, is it the baby?" Like she could just see from my face that something was horribly wrong, and I started sobbing.
And you eventually told them?
Yes. Yes, I did.
What happened after that conversation? What did you do?
I contacted Jim, I believe, shortly thereafter, and told him what had happened, and he said that he would find out what happened. He said he was so sorry for me.
No, he completed his testimony today. This is all of his testimony. Well, not all of it that we're watching.
And then I think I got drunk.
What did you do next?
Sometime either the following day or
Maybe.
the day after, we're
going to show a little cross
we had
tonight.
started to reach out to friends. I believe I reached out to Cameron and to Angela first. I met with Jim. He said he wanted to give me the results right away. Could I meet him somewhere outside Savannah? And I assumed it was the closest point, and that I would get the news quicker on what had happened. I remember talking to Betsy on my way out because she said, do you think we should be? She worked at Hunter McLean at this time in downtown Savannah. She said, do you think we should be looking for a lawyer? And I said, absolutely. Like, I am very unhappy with the care. Like, how do you leave a woman who's who had all these health issues alone for any length of time where she's not being monitored? Like, I absolutely at that point wanted her to start that process.
Did you find a lawyer?
No, we did not, because of my conversation with Mr. McIntyre that day or the next day. It was Friday or Saturday.
There's Jim.
At some point, did you travel down to the Liberty County area?
I believe so.
Why?
This was on Tuesday, I believe, Monday or Tuesday. I believe it was Tuesday, based on the other things. And I had been told to bring the two bins that we had to a house. I assumed it was somebody who worked at this birthing center or somebody Jim was familiar with. And this was something we'd done before, where we were going from point A to point B, and some or all of our stuff went to point C in between. So I brought them down. I met with a gentleman and delivered them to him.
What vehicle were you driving when you came down?
I was driving my Ford Explorer. It was a 2022 Forest Green.
Please endeavor to let me get the question out first.
I'm sorry.
You were driving your Ford Explorer, and you met with a man.
Yes.
What man did you meet with?
I don't know his name. I was just directed to go to him to deliver this.
To deliver what again?
To deliver 2 totes full of personal items, things we would need for a couple days, things
Totes.
that I've been asked to, toiletries, some clothes, shoes, some books, things of that nature.
And where did you deliver them to?
I'm not exactly sure. It was a house, I presume somewhere in the greater Liberty County area, but I'm not exactly sure.
How'd you know where to go to deliver these?
I was given an address of a church that I was told to to use as a waypoint, and then I was given GPS coordinates from there.
We've heard testimony that at some point your phone was turned off. Why was that?
I was told to turn off my phone because of concerns that it could be tracked.
So how did you get to the location without use of your phone?
Mindy.
Or perhaps he turned off his phone to cover his tracks. Come on. I was told to turn off my phone by this amazing FBI agent, Jim McIntyre. Come on.
I had a GPS, an older Garmin GPS that, had always been kind of our backup. If, if you lose cell coverage or something like that, if you're somewhere, then we kept that with us actually for a long time.
Where's that GPS now?
That GPS, I believe, burned up in my car.
He believes it.
Where's the shovel you purchased on November the 4th at Home Depot?
I believe that was either given, I know it was either given to Frank III or it was left at the house on East 65th Street.
We've seen receipts and photos of you buying a Milwaukee knife at Home Depot. Do you recall that?
I do.
Why were you buying that knife?
One of the screens that I had put in place, the one in the living room with the TV where Frank and Betsy spent most of their time, there was something weird about that. It looked like it had been damaged when it was initially installed, but it would hang out quite often, and I was having a very hard time keeping the netting on it and keeping it secured up there. So I was looking for something that kind of long and thin. I thought I could trim back the netting without causing further damage to this, and hopefully get it to sit up there. This was one of Mindy's big things. Was always like every place we live, even though these are vacation rentals, we should leave it in a better condition than we found it.
Are you a hunter?
I am not.
Why would you buy a deer processing kit at Bass Pro Shops?
I received a message from who I believed was Mindy on Monday, the 28th of November, and said that she'd been thinking about Christmas gifts for her brother Matthew, who is a hunter at this point. That seemed to be everything he did on weekends, and directed me to go to Bass Pro Shops and to buy it. So I did.
Where's that set of knives?
I believe I left that at the property when I departed. I left some things there that were kind of upsetting to see, and some of Mindy's goods, some things that she had picked out, and I believe that Mr. McIntyre was coming to pick them up and store them with the rest of our belongings.
Where's the Milwaukee knife that you purchased?
The Milwaukee knife was either left in my car when it burned, or it was left in my storage unit in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
You have a storage unit in Lancaster, Pennsylvania?
I do.
What's in that unit?
Personal belongings, some excess clothing, some furniture.
Okay, so we hear about the knife, we hear about the deer processing products, we hear about the totes in that one. He's weaving a story, because here's what happened. Actually, I'm going to show the next clip first. You guys are following along just fine. It seems like this is okay. Let's go to clip number 4. This one's about 11 minutes long. Here we go.
As a JAG officer, you indicated that
This is a cross-examination here, okay?
you were both a defense attorney and a prosecutor during your term as an officer in the JAG.
Yes, ma'am.
Be fair to say
By the way, the prosecutor walks around quite a bit. I tried to bump up the audio as much as I could.
that the Navy requires JAG officers to be very on top of your cases, right?
Absolutely.
To be careful with records, correct?
Correct.
To be careful with what you send to whom, correct?
Absolutely.
You check and double check pretty much everything, right?
Sometimes many more checks than that.
You never looked at Jim McIntyre's credentials,
Sorry.
right?
Correct.
Now, I just want to start with some of the things that we have in evidence. I'm showing you 2.26C. This is the photograph from Home Depot. That's you, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And that receipt that's attached to that from November 29th of 2022. That's also you, right?
Yes, ma'am.
It says your name on the receipt, correct?
I believe it does, yes.
It also says that you bought the Milwaukee Smooth Blade insulation knife on November 29th of 2022 at 8:56 a.m., correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you saw the testimony from Special Agent Bernie with the FBI, correct?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And that showed that your vehicle, your phone, and your business record put you in the vicinity of that Home Depot, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You don't dispute that, do you?
No, ma'am.
And in fact, you then watched as he showed all of the different waypoints of your vehicle traveling down towards Riceboro, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You don't dispute that that was your car, right?
No, ma'am.
You don't dispute that that was your phone, right?
No, ma'am.
And you don't dispute that that was you in the vehicle at the time.
That is correct, ma'am.
Okay. You saw the records introduced concerning the 2022 Ford Explorer purchased from J.C. Lewis, correct?
Correct.
And I'm pointing to 1.19. Do you recall seeing those business records introduced here in court?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you don't dispute that you bought that car, correct?
I do not dispute that.
You don't dispute you paid cash for it?
It was a check, but yeah.
It was the full amount.
Conversationally, yeah, you paying cash rather than financing. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you bought that car under your own name, correct?
Yes.
And that purchase was...
Do you guys notice how, a good lawyer would tell his client to not answer any more beyond what he needs to answer. But you notice how he's weaving a story underneath direct. Under cross, it's yes, no, very little beyond that.
I believe it was July 27th of 2022.
Right, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And when you bought that vehicle, that did not have a police intercept package on that vehicle, correct?
I don't believe so. I'm not sure what a police intercept package is, though.
Right. Because if it did, you would have paid extra for options, right?
Right. I mean, there were options on there that I did pay extra for. I assume that anything else would have been also additional.
Now,
He's under
you
cross-examination
also
now.
purchased $2.25C. Not this specific kit, but one that looked just like it, correct?
I believe so, ma'am.
This was a 7-piece deer processing kit, correct?
That's what it says, ma'am.
Well, you saw the business records from Bass Pro, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And they indicated that you purchased that item, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
You don't dispute that you did, correct?
No, ma'am.
And it's your testimony in court here today that you are not a hunter, correct?
That is correct.
You were not going hunting on November 29th of 2022, correct?
No, ma'am, I was not.
And just so we're clear, I'm going to show you States Exhibits 1.21, 1.22, 1.23, and 1.24. Do you recognize that car?
It looks like the same make and model car that I had.
And you don't dispute that you were down in a large wooded area on November 29th of 2022 at the time referenced in that photograph?
I don't really recall where I was, ma'am, but...
You don't recall where you were?
Right.
Okay. But just a moment ago, you said you didn't dispute that that was your path of travel that Agent Bernie displayed for the jury, correct?
Correct, ma'am.
Thank you. I'm publishing to the jury. photograph 1.1, rather 1.21.
We got too many drinking games going on with this. Actually,
You saw Agent Sands testify, correct?
I actually don't feel like I have been on top of this. Autumn has been on top of this, but I have not been on top of this case. I really should have been.
In 1.117,
Yes, ma'am.
this is a Marathon gas station, correct?
I can't quite see it, but I believe so. Yes, ma'am. Yes, it is.
And there's also a business record attached there, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
That's from your Renaissance Bank records, correct?
I believe so, ma'am.
That was your vehicle, your card, and you that was present at the vicinity of 13689 East Oglethorpe Highway, Midway, on November 29th of 2022, correct?
I believe so, ma'am.
Nobody else swiped your card, right? That was you.
I believe so, ma'am. Yes, I do not have any reason to believe that was not me.
You didn't report your car stolen, right?
No, ma'am.
Didn't report your phone stolen?
No, ma'am.
Didn't report your wallet stolen?
No, ma'am.
So all along, you've always had possession of those, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And it was your testimony that also you were told to turn your phone off, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And in fact, you saw Agent Burney demonstrate the time gap of approximately 2 hours when your phone was off and still in the area of the Portal Hunting Club, correct?
I'm not sure where the phone was during that time, but because I believe it was turned off. But
What was with you, wasn't
Right.
it?
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks, sunny
It was
days.
off, but on your person.
Or in my car.
Okay. And it's your testimony that you brought a black and a gray tote to that area, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And
So I have the knife, yes. I have the deer crossing, yes. Yes, I was there. Those are the waypoints, yes. Totally, yeah. I did have a gray tote. I did have a black tote. Show me the totes. Yeah, it was a tote just like that.
is it your testimony that's not your tote?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
That is your tote.
No, ma'am, it is not. My testimony is that it is not my tote.
So the other one, the gray one, that's also not your tote?
I would call that the gray one, ma'am, but I believe that that is also not my tote.
So I bought these exact totes,
Just so we're clear.
but
Apologies.
those aren't mine. So you can see that the circumstantial evidence is
These two totes are
stacking.
not your totes?
That is correct.
There are two random black and gray totes that showed up on November 29th of 2022 in the vicinity of the Portal Hunting Club, and they're not yours?
Objection asked and answered.
Overruled.
I'm not sure when they turned up, ma'am, but they are not mine. I can explain why if you would like.
You know
the
how
process
this works.
Mr. Kassotis.
Okay, ma'am.
I love that. You know how this works.
You heard the testimony that Mindy's blood was inside of those totes, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you heard the testimony that there were cleansing wipes recovered in the vicinity, right?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
And also, the knife.
Yes, ma'am.
So it's your testimony, this is not the knife you purchased on November 29th, 2022 at Home Depot.
That is definitively not the knife that I purchased at Home Depot.
Did you see the cleansing wipes on the knife at the photographs at the crime scene?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
It's your testimony you didn't clean this knife off, right?
That is correct, ma'am. I have never seen that knife before. It was introduced as evidence.
I bought the exact same model though.
This knife just happened to be there in the vicinity of the same black
Right.
and gray colored totes that you referenced in your interview to law enforcement,
Right.
correct?
I don't believe it just happened to be there, ma'am, but it was there.
And it was your testimony, correct me if I'm wrong, that you bought the deer processing kit to give to somebody as a gift?
Yes, to Mindy's younger brother, Matthew.
It was important to Mindy that you get him something he liked, right?
I believed so, but though I now have reason to question whether those messages were coming from Mindy or not.
But you don't have any reason to say otherwise other than that you're guessing, correct?
Correct.
But something so important to Mindy, you just left it at the house when you moved out, right?
I was extremely upset when I moved out, and I left a lot of things there.
So that was a yes, you left it at the house?
Yes, ma'am.
You never gave it to Matthew?
No, ma'am.
Ah, so it could be on your person. Yeah. I mean, I could watch that cross-examination all day long. But that was the clip that I selected for this evening. This is the strangest case. Now, I saw somebody like me has not been following this case. Just one more quick recap, okay? All right. This here is Mindi Kassotis. She was 40 years old. She is the second wife of Nicholas Kassotis, the defendant in this case. Mindy's dismembered remains were found in Riceboro, Georgia at a deer hunting club on December 2nd, 2022. They were scattered. It was like a 3-mile radius. I think the first bit was her torso, found by hunters. Okay? So Nicholas Kassotis, who's also known as Nicholas Killian James Stark, 43 years old, is a former Navy JAG officer. He has 2 law degrees. I mean, I've seen differing reports. One that said he was going for his LLM, one that said he had his LLM. In the testimony that we watched here tonight, he said he had his LLM. So 2 law degrees. Worked for the Judge Advocate General in the Navy. He was arrested on May 12th, 2023, after DNA from the remains positively identified Mindy. Between December and May, she was a Jane Doe. Okay? So he is facing 12 charges, starting with, basically murder 1, going down to tampering with evidence. The basic argument is that, okay, he bought a knife at Home Depot that was found at the scene. He bought a deer processing kit, all the sharps that you need in order to process a deer, which I would say really boils down to one good sharp knife, but it doesn't matter, they sell products. And then he had a black tote, a gray tote, and these all went missing. He doesn't have them. His car burned up, but for some reason, the Home Depot knife was found at the crime scene. The totes were found at the crime scene. The gift that he said he got for his brother-in-law Matthew was never given to his brother-in-law Matthew. I mean, they've got heaps and heaps and heaps of circumstantial evidence, which is valid evidence. Let's bring Mindy's picture up one more time. Which is valid evidence, okay? The defense's argument is that Mindy and Nicholas were living in constant fear from, basically, they thought that there were people that were after them online, and this mysterious guy, Jim McIntyre, who Nicholas said he thought was an FBI agent, was keeping him safe, moving him around a lot, helping him change his name, helping him buy a house, stuff like that. So what they're basically trying to do is they're trying to introduce a third-party defense. I didn't kill her. This Jim fella killed her. Now, he kept me safe for a couple years, and he was so smart, and he moved us around, and he got me a job that paid me millions of dollars and all that stuff. But, I mean, it must be him. So they're trying to plant into the jury's mind that somebody else did it, making it a whodunit, right? When all the evidence, all the circumstantial evidence, points back to Kassotis. That is what the case is. A couple of highlights from the trial so far. Let's see, I jotted a couple of these down. Medical examiner described violent injuries and decomposition. Hunter found the torso at the hunting club. Investigators tracked Kassotis' phone. That was another thing that got him. He was at the location before, or near the location, traveling toward the location when he turned off his phone. The ex-wife testified that he owed her over $1.5 million, never made payments on that. Mindy's friends, their family recalled disturbing, alarming, suspicious behavior from Nicholas, that he messaged them saying she died of a stroke, yet never held a funeral, like weird stuff like that. And then, yeah, he took the stand in his own defense today. Now, closing arguments were today. I think there will be jury instructions tomorrow, and we should expect what we should expect is that they will be deliberating, and then eventually there will be a jury verdict. I don't think it is going to take all that much time. Before we call it a night together, let's just see a couple of other things. You guys are saying Sunny Days is saying his story is just too preposterous to believe. Yep. What are the charges exactly? Sure, let me grab that list. Let's see. Let's see. There are 12 counts, but I think there are multiples in there. Basically, there are 5 things that prosecutors are saying: malice murder, felony murder, aggravated assault, tampering with evidence, and dismembering a body. And I think the tampering with evidence probably has multiple counts of that. That's what the charges are. What do they think his motive was? I don't know. I've heard some weird motives as far as like they weren't able to have children and so forth. I don't know that there was a motive other than he wanted to get out. That's what it seems like to me. Susan says supposedly he got her ashes from some random guy too. Yeah, it's all just way too crazy. Autumn says, look outside, it's creepy. Hang on, Autumn and I live in the same place. Please hold just a moment. Autumn, I'm not seeing creepiness outside my house. I want to. I like a little creepiness here and there. Yeah, Sunny says, I think the motive was that she was not pregnant and he lost it. I guess he was really fixated on having a child or children. Yeah. Who knows with crazy people? And the motive isn't required to prove in order to get a conviction. So Autumn says it was so red yellow. Well, how is that creepy? That's beautiful. Autumn, you and I see the world a little bit differently, which is totally fine. Guys, thanks for joining me tonight. Did go a little long tonight. We're 1:03. I try to keep things right around an hour. Hey, real quick, remember that baby Gavin is still missing, and you can have some fun on the treasure hunt if you are into kind of clue-solving games. So baby Gavin went missing. He was in his family room crime lab and just disappeared. So you have to figure out, based on clues that he left behind, where he went. It's just for fun. There were prizes, but all the prizes have been claimed. Now it's just for fun. We're going to keep this open for a while here. Okay, it's gonna last. Maybe by the end of the month, we'll probably close it down because I think it is slowed down. But it's a fun game if you're into it. Also, remember, this is a good way to reach me. Just click on that little icon, the little envelope icon in the upper right-hand corner of my website. That will take you to a contact me form. I do read all of the email that I get. I do not respond to most of it just because of my schedule. My schedule is changing though. On September 15th, a little over a month from now, I'm going to be going part-time on my day job, which is pretty exciting. So, yeah, like that's exciting. It's also kind of scary and a little sad because I love my day job, but I really want to do this full time. So that's going to be happening. Last thing I want to show you is this little fishy icon. If you click on that, that will take you. Why does it do that? It refreshed. That will take you over to the fish tank where over 5,000 of us hang out and talk about true crime, also things about me, like my wife taking my picture when I definitely don't want my picture taken. Look at that. I look like a fat Barry Gibb there with the golden arches. It's not anyway. That's what we do on Facebook. You are invited to join us. We have a good time over there. With that, guys, join me tomorrow, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. That I do this Monday through Friday. Sometimes I miss because of my day job, but tonight. Oh, hey, for those of you who stuck around to the end, I have something to play for you. I wonder if I should have edited it. I might do this for members only because I need to blurp out. But my work got the angriest voicemail today, angry at me, and it's entertaining. I think I'll share that with members because it's so funny, and I need to edit it. Anyway, I shouldn't have even brought it up, but I wasn't ready to share it yet. Shouldn't have even brought it up. Anyway, guys, I will see you on the next one. Until then, I bid you adieu and take care of yourselves. Good night. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked what you saw, please consider subscribing. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below.